Okay, so this is a video I didn't really intend to make, but I feel after the week I've had, I sort of have to now, solely in the hope that I can save someone else from a week of sleepless nights and endlessly scrolling through old Akai forums, just trying to figure out what the bloody hell is going on with all this stuff. Throughout this video, I'm going to point you towards various other videos and bits of information I found online. So hopefully all the great people that have now contributed to this topic, I can bring everything together and help people find the answers that they're looking for. The simplest answer to what is the best way to interface with these old hardware samplers like the Akai S1000 is that if you want to just capture the flavour of them, it's probably easiest just to resample in and out of them and then load stuff in your computer and chop it up in there. I actually unearthed a really sick technique with these Akais just when I was doing my last video, where it's obviously very common to drive this record level to clip the analog to digital converter on the way into the Akai, and you get clipping and saturation, and it's great for crunching up breaks. But what I realised is you can actually do this live and resample it, but also just really fine tune this control. And so if I just show you a quick example of this happening, and then I'll walk you through how I do it myself. So you can obviously hear there, you can get really crazy extreme distortion, especially if you put the record gain on high. So it's cool. It's really handy being able to hear this. Before I would like record information in and then audition it and then kind of change the controls, but it's way better being able to do this all live. And so what I actually use for this is a program called Loopback. And so what I'm essentially doing, I might try and animate this, but I am taking the outputs of the loopback outputs of my audio interface I'm using, and then I'm feeding them to an old audio interface I don't use anymore. And all that audio interface is doing is it's feeding that information into both my Akai and my EMU. And the essence of this is that I can record anything that comes out of my computer audio. I can record it straight into my Akai or my EMU. And so then all I have to do is to turn off on my mixer, turn off the channel which my audio interface is going to, my computer audio interface is going to, and just listen to the Akai. And then also on the Akai, I've got to turn the monitoring to auto on. So you basically turn input monitoring on your Akai and then stop listening to your audio interface. And then I can live resample, or at least live or audition how this record level is affecting the sound as I drive it into it. The great thing about doing it this way is you can really hone in on the sweet spot of where there's a little bit of clipping and saturation, but nothing too crazy. We don't want to go mad for our breaks generally, unless of course you want to go for that sound, but I think I hit quite a good point there. And then another really classic technique that you can do is to actually speed up or pitch up your breaks in the DAW and then record them pitched up into the Akai, and then we can pitch them back down in there. So let's do that one as well. If I just come into this sampler, maybe I go a whole octave higher than I want to be. Okay, sweet. So we've got that fat, crunchy break now that's been hit on the way in with the record level, and we've also done this pitch interpolation trick, which will roll off some of the highs and make it even more noisy and crunchy and distorted. So the next thing to do is to record this back into your computer. And I can actually just do this in Renoise. If I set up this sample recorder and I go, this channel 23 and 24 is my mixer output. So the whole output of the mixer can come in here. If I actually just put pattern on none and start recording. Cool. And normalize this and get rid of this. This has got a weird click on the end I quite want to get rid of as well. And just this bit of audio here. Whoa, keep adding. Okay, there. Okay, sweet. And you can see, just looking at the waveform here, this is looking super fat. This is what it looked like originally. And if I just play it as well, we've really crunched it up. The other really obvious point is just to use these devices as they were originally intended. Spend a little time learning to edit with them and to program, and God forbid read a manual to, and just relax a little. It's part of the process of working with these old bits of hardware, and it's actually quite therapeutic sometimes. Just doing stuff with your hands and having these nice tactile buttons is actually quite an enjoyable part of the process. However, if you're anything like me and you're always searching for the most optimal workflow between these lovely bits of old hardware and all the advantages we have in modern computer systems, then I have some answers for you. One of the best ways to interact with these old Akai samplers is actually to use an old version of Recycle, like Recycle 2, and an old laptop or PC that has a SCSI port on it, and then you can literally just link up your SCSI port from your computer via a SCSI cable to the SCSI port on the back of an Akai, and then just pipe everything through that from Recycle. Now, Architecture, who's got a really great YouTube channel, makes lots of great old school jungle music, has a really good video on this showing his process, so I strongly suggest you check that out. One amazing piece of equipment that's been around for about 10 years or so now is the SCSI to SD, or the newer ZULU SCSI. Now, these essentially replace the floppy drives that were in these old hardware samplers and lets you load all your samples and save onto an SD card, which the sampler, or in this case the Akai, can read. I did actually set one of these up from scratch when I did all the upgrades to my EMU E5000 Ultra, where I did a new PSU, I did a ZULU SCSI, I did a silent fan and a new LED screen, and I have little to no electronic experience. But I somehow managed to get through it, and it was a little bit of a hairy process, I'm not going to lie. You really don't want to ruin these bits of equipment, so you have to be a little bit brave to try them. But it's fairly straightforward, and there's some good guides on the internet. A few people have kind of done it now and filmed or documented their process. So you can find enough information to do it yourself. And I think the ZULU SCSI is fairly simple. Looking at I found a really good article for the S1000. I think it's pretty simple to set up. So if anyone's interested in that, I will leave a link in the description as well. Whether you've installed the ZULU SCSI yourself or you've been lucky enough to buy an Akai with one pre-installed, the next step is to format your SD card to work with it. So what you need is like a 16GB SD, I think, for these Akai S100s. I'll put a little link up here so you can see which one I bought, which has been working fine with my Akai. And then we're going to go to disk utility here on our Mac. So disk utility. Cool, so I can see my SD card in here now, and I'm going to go erase, and I'm going to make it MS-DOS FAT, and I'm going to call this Akai S1000. So the next thing to do is to create these image files, and there is a really good video for how to do this on Mac. There's another really good one on Windows, and you can also do this on Translator 7. So there's 3 good options there, and actually for anyone who's using an S1000, I will put my image files, this whole basically what my SD looks like, this is a completely blank version of it, up on Google Drive, so you can just download that as well. So that should work for anyone on an S1000. Another thing we need to do is to make sure we've got the newest firmware on our ZULU SCSI and we've updated it. And if you're not sure what model of ZULU SCSI you have, you can go into this ZULU text file, which will be automatically created, I think, when you plug your ZULU SCSI into your hardware sampler and turn it on. You can come in here and it will tell you, you can see I'm on ZULU SCSI 1.1 here. So that 1.1 tells me if I come to this website and I go onto their firmware releases, I can see that I need this 1.1 plus version. So you can see which version of the ZULU SCSI you need to download. So you download this bin file here, and then all you got to do is drag this bin file onto the SD, which has your Akai on it. And then you very simply eject this SD, and you can plug it into your Akai. Make sure it's turned off, and then when you turn it back on, what it will do is read that bin file and update it if it needs to, and then automatically delete the bin file, so it kind of does the whole process for you. The last thing we need to do here is to make sure we got this zuluscsi.ini file, and you can download this also. I'll put a link in the description from their website. So you just need to drag this zuluscsi.ini file onto this SD as well, and this will help us communicate with Translator 7, which is a program we're going to use a little bit later in this process. Okay, wicked. So now we're all set with the ZULU SCSI. We can talk about what is the best way to prepare your samples for loading onto your SD for in a format that Akai can read. And I've tried a few different techniques for this and come up with a bit of a workflow here, but I have to say the best program by far I've used for this is Renoise, and I haven't been able to get consistent success with any other program, so we're sticking in Renoise here. And what we can essentially do for this drum break, let's just quickly chop it up at all the hits. Okay, nice. So I've got the break here all chopped up. Now what I'm also going to do is just create a duplicate of this break just for safekeeping. And then in this version, what I'm going to do is go right click and slices, destructively render slices, delete this first one. So we have all of our chops here now, all broken down into individual samples. One thing is that they've all got kind of a weird labeling. So if we want to sort out the labeling, a way to do this is if you go layer, you can then batch rename. And this was the funky. So if I just call it funky break, and see how it labels it all incrementally with numbers, and then we can click drum kit to take it back to a drum kit. Cool, so we've labeled our samples and we've got this all ready to go here. Now another thing to do, I've set this, make sure your drum kit is actually set at C5, because C5 in Renoise is C3 in the Akai. So that's just a bit of housekeeping there, and then we can export this template. Now one other thing I think is worth noting is with building these instruments, say I've only got one break here, but if I wanted to add another break in, so if I come in and just find another break with some hits, and I just chop maybe the first start of this break. This is quite a common problem you might have. What happens if you've got another break and you want to load them all onto this same instrument in Renoise, and then to load it in the Akai so it just reads this whole thing as one program? Well, the best way to do this is the same thing. So come in here, go right click, slices, destructively render slices, and get rid of that first one. But rather than like have to copy each of these individual hits across to this instrument, which is a little bit tedious, what you can do is just right click, save samples as, and I'm just going to go to my desktop and save them all in here. And then what you can actually do is if I just go to the bottom, maybe add one sample, blank sample, I can just select this whole lot and drag them in, and then it's going to add them to the end. So you can very quickly stack up and build your instruments this way. With multiple breaks all in one long key group, so we can load it into one program on the Akai. So we've got two breaks here all ready to go. Now the next thing to do is actually to export them. So if you come into this window, you've got to have key zone selected here. Come in, export multi-sample, and we're going to export as an SFZ file. So let's go to that location again, and I'm going to go and call this funky breaks for Akai. We have created this folder now, and in this folder you can see we've got all our break samples and this SFZ instrument, but there's another bit of housekeeping we've got to do. So you need a couple of programs to get this work, and I'm just showing you my process. I can't really do any better than that for doing this. So in this, what we've got to do now is load Twisted Wave and come into Twisted Wave, and I go batch processing. And I select this batch I've already made in the past for the Akai. And what I'm doing here is I'm converting these samples to mono. I'm also inserting a bit of silence at the end of the samples. Now this is really important, and it nearly drove me completely mad. But I found out that the old MPCs definitely used to do this, and people have talked about it on the internet. And a few people have, a guy very kindly on the Discord told me that the Akai S1000s did this also. Is they add a little bit of a fade in order to try and get around clicks and pops at the end of your samples, at the end of your slices. And so when I was loading my drums into the Akai, I was getting this weird thing where they were all slightly gated, because it was essentially removing about 40 milliseconds of audio from each of my drum hits. So to get around this, I'm essentially adding 100 milliseconds of audio to the end of every drum hit, so I can kind of counter that fading, and then I can have nice clean hits, which are the full length I want them to be. So that was a bit of a maddening problem, but thank you for everyone that helped me figure that one out. And then these last ones, I'm converting it to 44.1 hertz, and I'm also exporting it as a 16-bit WAV file. Now I know Chicken Systems Translator and this other program I'm going to show you do some of this kind of processing, but I think it's easy just to do it all in one go before I load it into those programs. So basically load all your samples into there and then start processing, and that's going to sort them all out for me. Okay, so here's where we hit a bit of a crossroads. We have two options really. One is to enter Garth's slightly mad world of Chicken Systems Translator 7, which from reading forum posts from the last 10 years, people have been pulling their hair out non-stop trying to fight all the bugs and the problems that they've experienced with this program. But from my experience, it's been working pretty well for me, and it took a little bit to get over that initial learning curve, but I think I've got it now, and I've been having some pretty good success with it. The other option is this program called Awave and another one called Akaiutil, and they're a little bit of a cheaper option, but the one thing is you have to do a little bit of scripting and a little bit of kind of coding. And so if you're not comfortable with that and you would rather work with a nice UI, Chicken Systems Translator is a little bit more expensive, but it might be a better option for you. Okay, so I'm in the newest version of Translator 7 now, and what I can see down here is this virtual drives, and I can see my Akai. So what I can do is I can come in, and I'm just working in HD5 at the moment, because that's when I've set up my Akai to read. So I'm in HD5 and I can just open these. I can create volumes in these partitions. So if I click on this partition, I can create a new volume here. So I can call this volume, or maybe I call it funky breaks. Let's go and drag funky breaks into volume 1. It's doing the same thing as, oh, there you go. So that was really weird. Because maybe I should just have called it volume 2, and I shouldn't have tried to rename it. So let's delete that. Anyway, so potentially you don't want to label any of your files anything rather than volume 001. That could have been something that I did there to throw things off. But I have managed to get these breaks now into volume 1. And you can see if I drop this down and just click on this Akai program, you can see the break all done nicely here. This is going from C4 up. So all the hits have come in. You can see I've got the silence at the end. So we're basically ready to go there. And I can just export this SD. And the good thing about the Akais is you can actually leave them on and just do this stuff. Take the SD in and out, and it will reread the hard disk. Okay, cool. So I can navigate to this number B now, which obviously, if I open up Translator, you can see very clearly partition B is what I'm on, and then volume 1 is where I put my breaks. You can see them all in here, and I could hit clear and then go to clear my memory and then load all of these break chops into the Akai. Cool, so we've got everything in now. If I turn my volume back up and I go on edit program, you can see I've got this funky breaks program. I can go and check the key group for this and see how it's spanned, and you can see everything's come in perfectly, which is exactly what we want. So let's go back to edit program again. And one of those things before in Renoise, remember I said to save the break which had been sliced, and the reason for this is I can go right click slices and then render slices to phrase, and I've essentially created like a groove template. So if I make this lines per BA, I'm just showing you how you can use that pattern as a groove template, and then we can apply this to MIDI. So I can go MIDI output device, and then I send out of MIDI 2 to this Akai. And then if I select all this information and then make it send to the Akai instrument, hopefully. Now one thing is it's going from C sharp, so I've got to make it go from C, and this should now work. Nice, so now we've got this break perfectly rolling at the Akai, exactly how we would want to do it in the DAW, so we can be really precise with our chopping and chop all the individual hits and completely emulate that in the Akai. But obviously, once we're in the Akai, we can then go and sort of pitch this stuff down. So if I go on the tuning of the program, I can do this live actually and play this break. That sounds pretty cool up there, doesn't it? So that's the start of like a filthy breaks track there. So it's pretty dope, and I know I've taken a long time talking about all these other things, but once you get the workflow down of just doing these templates in Renoise, exporting them as SFZ files, loading those through Translator onto your SD, and then plugging that in the Akai, it actually only takes a minute or two, and it saves you a lot of time. Chopping stuff up on the Akai in particular is extremely slow. Chopping your breaks up, so I do like doing this, and it gives you a lot of that control of you can be really precise with your markers and all these things, like you like being the door, but then able to take that and use it on an Akai. So that is a very great success, and I'm glad I've been able to explain. This is probably the workflow I'm going to use. And now I'll give you a little go of showing you this other one that uses Awave and Akaiutil. Okay, so we need to get Awave from their studio, and you can just download the demo version for this. I think they do a 30-day free demo, so I would definitely test this out before you buy it. So you can get Awave Studio and then Akaiutil from their website. Now I'm on a Mac here, I'm on an M1 Mac, and so I can't run Awave natively on my Mac. It's a Windows program that essentially comes like this with a .exe file. So in order to use this on your Mac, you've got to get Wine or Wine emulator, which I followed this video here of how to get this onto an M1 Mac. But essentially you need to get the staging version of Wine from here. I can't remember what release it is. I will write it in the comments if anyone of you looking, but I essentially just followed this video here of how to get Wine to work on my M1 Mac. And then once you get that working, you can go to this .exe file, open with, and choose Wine staging. Okay, cool. So it's opened up Awave for us here, and I can just continue evaluating this demo. And then what I'm going to do is just drag in the SFZ file. It's such a hard combination of characters to say that, and then I can literally just save this, save collection as, and I'm selecting from this list the Akai S1000 program. So you can see there you've got lots of options. You can do S3000 and S950s, as well as a few other programs in here, so it's pretty handy. But if I just click off and hit save, so that should save it all up now. Cool. So here we are in this. That actually saved it all outside, but I should be able to drag it in. Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do it without that. Nice. Okay, cool. So I've got my break here with all the samples again. And what I can do this time is now use Akaiutil to send it onto the volumes on the SD. So if I take it back out of my Akai. Oh yeah, so one other thing is you download Akaiutil. If I just download this. Nice, so once you've downloaded this program, let's extract this into downloads. And then come in here. So you've got the README, which is handy because it tells you what the bits of code, what they're actually going to do in this program. But we actually have to drag this util to a specific place, and I wrote this in my notes. So it goes in user local bin, and this is probably something that anyone who codes would know, but I didn't really have a clue that this is where it would go. So I think you go into, I couldn't find it, but I did actually. If you just type usr-local -bin, it might just find it for me. Here we go. So I can see the bin here. If I come on, click that. This is the, so yeah, it goes in your Macintosh HD, and then you can't actually see that yeah, it's like a hidden folder, but you can locate it by typing it into Spotlight Search like I did, and then it goes into bin here. So you need to drag this Akaiutil into this bin folder, and then we can start running it. So the next thing to do is to go into terminal. So let me get my notes up so I can see what's going on. Right, so let's go change directory, and then we're going to go -desk desktop. Nice. So we're trying to send our directory to our desktop. Now I need to go and actually look where that file is. So we're in this music quick access tool. So I can go change directory again, and then I might be able to just drag that folder. Is that going to make it work? Cool. So I'm looking at music quick access. I then need to point it towards this one. So let's go there. I can point it towards funk breaks. And then I can also finally point it towards this Awave funk break. So I'm just trying to point it to where I'm trying to go. No such directory found. Hold on. CD space Awave funk break. Nice. So I've set the location to be this folder on my desktop where I've got all those files are. And now I need to use this Akaiutil command. So I go Akaiutil space dash volumes, and then I'm pressing tab there to make it kind of automatically do that. I can press tab again. It's going to go and search the Akai S1000, and then I can go. I'm going to go HD5. And that's gonna, so I'm basically pointing it using this Akaiutil command. I'm pointing it to the Akai, to this HD5 image file, and I can press enter. So it's now looking in here and it's reading this this image file. Okay, if I say something stupid here, don't hate me because I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to do this enough so people have a vague idea of how to use this program. So I can go ls will list the directory, and you can see these commands. I'm doing this because this guy, I should really mention him, he's called Samplers on YouTube. I don't actually know his real name, but he very kindly did a Zoom call with me and kind of walked me through how to use this program quite briefly. And so I'm just really using the knowledge that he gave me from that video. I'll put a link into his YouTube channel above. I'm just using the knowledge from that to just show you roughly how to do this. So I'm looking into my partitions now, and I can see that I want to put it into CDB potentially. Now, if I come back into Translator so we can see what this actually looks like, what I'm looking is number 5, partition B. So I've already got something in partition B. Maybe I go into C because it's empty, and I can see it's empty in here, I think. Yeah, so nothing is in volume. Cool, so let's go in there. So what I want to do is go CDC, sorry, with a capital C. So I want to go to look into that one. And then once I'm in C, I want to go CDI1. Now what I could actually do at this point is go ls and just show me the volumes in this directory, and then I can see that I've only got one volume there, so CDI1. So I'm pointing it. I want to load all those files we have our breaks in. I want to put them in this volume, and then the last thing I can do is go put, and then I go space and an asterisk, and that's going to send the files in. Here we go, importing all of these break files into the ST. Now the one problem is it hasn't liked the program file. It says it's skipping this .pp file, which is kind of annoying. And I had this program when I tried it with samplers before. So there's nothing I can really do about that. Now what I can do is refresh this folder, and I wonder if it will now show me. So it is showing me that all the files are in there, but it hasn't put the program file in. Now sometimes it worked putting the program file in, and sometimes it didn't. I don't know why it isn't doing that. So I guess this worked for me somewhat, but other people might have more success with this technique. But I guess that's all I can really show you is roughly how to use that program. Maybe with more time, if I put more into it, I could learn it. But for me, Chicken Systems Translator sort of gets me what I want to do. I know it might not be a perfect program, and it is quite expensive, but it gets the job done. So at least I've shown you the two methods that you can do there to hopefully make your own mind up about which way is best for you. And I've answered any questions you might have about interfacing with these old Akais. So thank you very much for sticking with me to the end, and I will catch you very soon in the next one. Peace.